On December 26, 1996, everything in Boulder, Colorado, seemed calm and ordinary. But inside the Ramsey family's home, something horrifying had happened. 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey, a little beauty queen and the apple of her family's eye, mysteriously went missing. Just hours later, her body was found inside their own house, in the basement. What unfolded would go on to become one of the most infamous and unsolved crimes in American history. Today, we're diving deep into this shocking and mysterious case together. So switch your brain into cosmic mode, because in this universe, nothing will distract you from watching this story. JonBenét Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia. She was a beautiful, lively little girl who quickly became the center of attention for her family and everyone around her. Her father, John Ramsey, was a successful businessman running a large company, while her mother, Patsy, was a former beauty queen who dreamed of passing that world on to her daughter. Neighbors and acquaintances often described the Ramseys as a picture-perfect family, a nice house in a safe neighborhood, plenty of love, and a life that seemed full of blessings. From an early age, Patsy was heavily involved in her daughter's future. She put JonBenét into children's beauty pageants, sewed expensive, custom-made dresses for her, helped her prepare performances, and even encouraged her artistic side through painting and other activities. JonBenét thrived, and by the age of 6 she was already well known across the U.S., with modeling agencies predicting a bright career ahead. But success always brings criticism. Some people accused Patsy of pushing her daughter too hard into a world that could harm a child's mental health. Others criticized John for funding it all. Patsy defended herself fiercely, insisting that JonBenét loved pageants and chose that life herself. At just 6 years old, JonBenét had already won multiple titles and awards. Yet her charm wasn't only in her looks, she was also known as a sweet, energetic, and affectionate little girl who lit up the lives of her family and friends. Patsy focused on her daughter's image and competitions, while John dreamed of big things for her future. But with fame also came darker attention. JonBenét's beauty and rising profile made her admired by many, but also put her in danger. Pageants often attract unhealthy interest, and in JonBenét's case, some feared it drew the attention of predators. Christmas night should have been filled with joy for the Ramsey family. But in the early hours, Patsy woke up and discovered a 3-page ransom note at the bottom of the staircase. The note demanded $118,000 in exchange for JonBenét. She immediately called the police. When investigators arrived, the situation only grew stranger. The ransom note claimed to be from a foreign faction, with strict instructions not to contact authorities. But the amount they demanded was suspiciously specific, $118,000. That was the exact amount of John Ramsey's recent annual bonus, suggesting the writer knew the family personally and intimately. Throughout the day, Patsy and John tried to cooperate with police. But the crime scene quickly spun out of control. Proper procedures weren't followed, the house wasn't fully secured, and family, friends and neighbors came and went freely, contaminating crucial evidence. Later that same day, JonBenét's body was discovered in the basement by her father. John wrapped her in a blanket and carried her upstairs, unknowingly disturbing potential evidence even further. The autopsy revealed that she had been strangled with a garrote and suffered a severe head injury. Her mouth had been covered with duct tape, her hands and feet tied with cord, and the strangling device, cord tied to a small piece of wood, was left at the scene. Investigators also noted a broken basement window, which raised the possibility of an intruder. But no solid evidence of forced entry was ever found, leaving more questions than answers. Early police reports showed that from the very beginning, investigators were split on who might have committed the crime. Some believed the killer had to be someone inside the family, while others argued it was the work of an outsider. On the surface, certain details seemed clear, but the deeper investigators looked, the more complicated the case became, turning it into a puzzle that has remained unsolved to this day. As the investigation unfolded, suspicion quickly fell on the Ramsey family. And there were reasons for that. For one, the ransom note itself. What kind of kidnapper writes a 3-page letter? When handwriting experts compared it, they noticed similarities between the note and Patsy Ramsey's writing style. Another detail, a foreign hair was found on JonBenét's clothing. If that belonged to an intruder, how did that person get into the house without anyone noticing? When the ransom note was analyzed, investigators noticed something odd. It didn't sound rushed or panicked. Instead, it was confident, even overly wordy, filled with long phrases and unnecessary details. That suggested the writer might not have been an outsider in a hurry, but someone inside the house who felt comfortable taking their time. Naturally, Patsy Ramsey became one of the first suspects. Detectives pointed out that when police arrived, she was still wearing the same clothes she had worn the night before, raising suspicions that she hadn't actually gone to bed, and maybe had written the letter. On top of that, both the paper and pen used for the ransom note came from inside the Ramsey home. Another person of interest was JonBenét's older brother, Burke. Some speculated that a sibling argument may have escalated into something tragic. But Burke was never officially declared a suspect. And, of course, sibling fights aren't unusual. It's not something that automatically points to murder. Investigators also considered the theory of a sexual predator. After all, JonBenet was frequently in the spotlight, photographed in pageant costumes that unfortunately could attract dangerous attention. One of the prime suspects at the time was Gary Oliva, a convicted sex offender and known pedophile who lived in Boulder, not far from the Ramseys' home. Police later found photos of JonBenet among his belongings, along with disturbing material involving young girls. With his violent history and unstable mental health, Oliva seemed like a strong candidate. In fact, fibers found on JonBenet's clothing appeared, at first, to match items linked to him. But DNA testing later proved otherwise. His genetic profile didn't match the evidence collected from JonBenet's body. Even though Oliva wrote multiple letters confessing to the crime, including a chilling one in 2016 while he was in prison, investigators didn't buy it. He claimed JonBenet's death was an accident and that it broke his heart. Still, law enforcement believed he was just another criminal trying to gain attention by inserting himself into a high-profile case. Other theories circled back to the family. The broken basement window and unidentified footprints suggested someone could have broken in. DNA samples recovered from JonBenet's clothing didn't match any member of the Ramsey family, which leaned toward the intruder theory. But that DNA has never been linked to anyone known, leaving the mystery unsolved. Investigation, police made major mistakes. The crime scene was never properly sealed off, allowing friends and neighbors to move freely through the house and potentially contaminate evidence. On top of that, the Ramseys quickly hired lawyers and controlled when and how they spoke to investigators, making the case even harder to crack. Over the years, endless theories have swirled. Some believe Patsy accidentally killed her daughter in a moment of frustration, then staged the scene and wrote the ransom note to cover it up. Others insist Burke was involved, and that the family protected him. One thing is certain, the list of reasons to suspect the family is long, and just as long as the reasons to doubt it. One of the biggest reasons suspicion kept circling back to the parents was their unusual behavior. When Patsy discovered her daughter was missing, she dialed 911. But the call sounded strange, her words were confusing, and instead of focusing on the operator, she kept talking to her husband and even to her son. Later, she testified that Burke had been asleep during the call. But audio experts claimed you could actually hear her speaking to him in the background. Why lie about that? The ransom note only raised more questions. Handwriting analysis showed striking similarities to Patsy's writing. Meanwhile, John Ramsey seemed almost careless when it came to the investigation. He ignored police protocols, and his actions actually damaged critical evidence. The autopsy revealed JonBenet had suffered a blow to the head with a blunt object, likely the actual cause of death. The strangulation marks around her neck appeared to have been added later, as if someone staged the scene to cover up what really happened. This leads into the third theory, one that's deeply tied to the second, JonBenet's older brother, Burke. At the time, he was 9 years old, hyperactive, aggressive, and often rough with his little sister. Some believe what happened that night was a tragic accident fueled by sibling jealousy. After all, JonBenet's success in pageants put her in the spotlight, while Burke was often left in the background. The year before her death, an incident had already raised eyebrows. During playtime, Burke struck JonBenét with a golf club, leaving her seriously injured. Was that just a coincidence? Or an early warning sign? During the autopsy, pieces of pineapple were found in JonBenét's stomach. On the kitchen table, investigators discovered a bowl of pineapple, with both Patsy's and Burke's fingerprints on it. Next to the bowl sat a heavy flashlight, the very object that could have been used to deliver the fatal head injury. When asked, the Ramseys claimed Burke had been asleep and hadn't eaten any pineapple. But Burke himself later admitted he had. This inconsistency added fuel to the theory. Many now believe that JonBenét and Burke were eating pineapple together when an argument broke out. In a fit of anger, Burke may have struck her with the flashlight, accidentally killing her. Faced with the unthinkable, the parents chose to protect their son. They staged the scene, writing the ransom note, creating the garrote, and misleading investigators, to save Burke from being taken away. Perhaps even the police, under pressure and overwhelmed by media attention, decided to quietly look the other way. Still, other hypotheses remain. Some experts insist the crime was committed by an outsider, maybe a neighbor or family acquaintance, who slipped in through the broken window or an unlocked door. Others even suggested the involvement of a highly organized group, skilled enough to leave behind nothing but unanswered questions. Over time, conspiracy theories exploded. Some people went as far as to claim JonBenét never actually died, that the entire case was staged. DNA evidence, inconsistencies inside the home, and suspicious behavior from multiple people only added to the swirl of speculation. In recent years, advances in technology have breathed new life into the investigation. Forensic science has improved, especially in DNA analysis. In 2008, the Ramsey family was officially cleared based on DNA evidence, but not everyone agreed with that decision, and debates still rage on. Today, investigators hope that advanced genomic profiling could one day reveal the truth. But the cost is high, and even with cutting-edge tools, there are no guarantees. Old evidence can be re-examined, yes, but so far, nothing has tied the crime conclusively to anyone. And so, the case of JonBenét Ramsey remains one of the most haunting mysteries in American true crime. Was it a group of criminals? A predator? Or her own brother? What do you think? Share your theory in the comments. For now, goodbye.